to our guests this week. We got members of our various level design teams. We got folks from the landing zone content team. We got folks from the modular content team. So let's go around the room and see who we have today. We will start with our demonstrator right here to my left here. Antoine, tell us who you are and what you do for Star Citizen.
Hello. Yeah, my name is Antoine. I've been working for Star Citizen for almost 2 years now. I started on New Babbage, so on Landing Zone, and then I worked on Grimmix as well, and currently I'm working on the homesteads.
Bueno, este señor ha trabajado en New Babbage, en Greenheads también.
It's become an ISC tradition for the last 2 quarters. Let's just continue counterclockwise. Andreas, who are you and what do you do for Star Citizen?
Well, my name is Andreas. I am the lead level designer for Star Citizen Persistent Universe. So, been here a few times, been with the company for 6 years plus. So, mostly I lead the work of the team. I do get my hands on some white boxing from time to time, like Area 18, which I worked on together with my esteemed colleague.
Bueno, sería el encargado de dirigir al equipo. Lleva como más de 6 años trabajando para Cloud Imperium Games. Y de cuando en vez también se ensucia las manos en un white box y tal.
Good old times, actually, yeah.
Oh, don't blush.
Como el TR-18.
So who are you? What do you do besides Area 18?
Hey, I'm Manuel. I'm with the company for almost 3 years now. Besides Area 18, I did a bit of rest stops. I did the prison hub, and I'm currently working on Horizon.
Está trabajando ahora mismo en Horizon. Hizo también en las Rest and Relax. Y también el tema de las prisiones también ha trabajado en él.
Today's show is about exploring what level design is, how level design works, the ideas and the considerations that go into level design. I think there's a lot of, it's one of those nebulous kind of professions where people equate level design with the people who make all the art and the people who create the
Está diciendo que el Star Citizen Live de hoy es para explicar qué es el diseño de niveles, que hay gente que lo confunde con diseño de arte, que es otra cosa, ¿no?
White box, and it's the early stuff. Like level design is about laying this foundation that everybody else then builds upon. So
claro, dice el diseño de niveles se basa en poner las bases, los pilares, ¿no? Para que el resto de equipos puedan trabajar en el escenario, en la escena, ¿no?
All right, can you guys see?
Yeah. Now,
all right,
now floating in space, this looks like a weird space station. But what is it we're looking at actually?
So okay, so yeah, I'll take it from the start. Basically, what we're doing is the initial process of creating a location. So first of all, we get a pitch, and we have to create like a level design document that goes around it, where we do a bit of research and we detail what the location will be about. And from our side, we also have to do some.
Claro, dice, lo que estaríamos viendo aquí sería la creación de una localización. Y pues primero tienen una idea para seguir y a partir de ahí pues buscan referencias, como estamos viendo, ¿no?
Artists do with the image references, but for us we're looking at like the navigation and what cool thing can happen here and then and so on. So what I'm going to show today is I want to take an underground facility, and I would like to connect it to one of the cave that we have, the new cave that we have, like that one big opening cave.
Lo que quieren hacer es una instalación bajo tierra y quieren conectarla a una de las nuevas cuevas que han hecho. Ojo,
Facility, and then you have a section that opens up into a cave and so on, right? So from the modular aspect of it, it's just one section of it that we'll be creating. I won't actually connect it to a cave, but it's just to show you guys like the process of like, hey, here we go. We start off with some of the pictures to explore what like some of the ideas we could bring into this location. And
claro, lo que están viendo es que, o sea, no la van a conectar ahora a una cueva, ¿no? Pero vamos a ver cómo sería el proceso de creación, los pasos a seguir, las referencias que toma, etc.
So like quite like this thing here, where you can see some part of the cave, but you still have like the underground stuff that can open up to mix to this and this image. So this is what I've been looking on the side. Then usually we would detail all that stuff into a level design document. We'll get also the mission guide that would tell us like what we would precisely be doing in there, but I'll let the other guys explain a bit more.
Claro, lo que estarían haciendo sería crear lo que sería una estructura y luego pues también hablar con el game design, con el diseño de juego para ver qué tipo de cosas quieren hacer o qué actividades quieren realizar en la ubicación.
Knows about, and so it's quite easy to expand from. What I'll be doing is I'll just show you guys how this place works in general. We have like a hub. This is like the modular aspect of a location. In landing zones, we create like very bespoke layout. But in the modular aspect, we have to think about, a hub section that has multiple like connectors that are very similar, on which we create these modules that can snap to it. And then we can use the procedural tool to generate different type of areas.
Claro, lo que nos están enseñando es que tienen una sección que llaman Hub, que sería la sección, vamos a decir, el tronco principal, y luego le van añadiendo diferentes secciones basados en la modularidad que están desarrollando para programar en Star Citizen, ¿no?
It's on my side here.
Bueno, para desarrollar el juego.
Start to construct something. So, as you know, in the universe, we have like a bunch of sets that have metrics, which is very important for us, that everything just goes with the right metrics. If I put a little light over here, no, it doesn't work. And all these are like preset things that we can use to create our location, where we will know that this will be the right metrics, the right, will be the.
Claro, esto que tienen aquí sería como una especie de medida, porque, bueno, ellos es muy importante para ellos el trabajar con métricas, entonces, si quieren construir o tienen una idea de hacer una sección, podrán tener eso en cuenta para que las métricas sean las correctas.
So I think we have 7. No, we have quite a few. Going back to like what Jared said in the beginning, I think one of the reasons why people sometimes are a bit maybe not so aware of what level designers actually do is that, to my knowledge, depending on which company you actually work in, a level designer does slightly different things. In certain companies, they are more like scripters. In other companies, they are more blockout people, right? So, in generally here at Cloud Imperium Games, you would say a level designer is a person who is part of the process from the beginning to the very end, right? He is part of the story when, like Antoine said, we get the kickoff and the narrative. We put together the level design document that is a fairly extensive document that.
Claro, están diciendo que en el caso de la empresa de Cloud Imperium Games, que otras empresas pueden ocupar diferentes actividades, un diseñador de niveles está en contacto con el proceso desde el principio hasta el final, ¿no? Incluso pues al principio reuniendo pues la documentación necesaria para que concuerde con la narrativa y demás.
We go into a white box phase, which is what we're seeing here. Part of the level design document is also doing what Antoine did, which is gathering reference images and just getting an idea of what we want to aim for.
Parte también de esa documentación que se recabaría sería pues también las referencias visuales que quieren adoptar para hacer esta estructura, ¿no? Por ejemplo.
To level design is the creative bit, which is blocking out the location, building it, and then there's the slightly more boring, stronger, tedious bit, which is the markup, and that is setting up all the volumes, everything that defines atmosphere in a space and determines if it has a gravity or whatever it might be, right? I'm sure everyone at some point went through a doorway in Star Citizen and suddenly you start suffocating for some reason, and that's just some level designer missed our room system and he gets a big slap. So, but
claro, dice que a veces puede haber algún fallo, ¿no? Y dice que lo típico de cuando vamos con el jugador sin casco y tal, que eso pasaba en Gringes, ¿no? De que cambiabas de sección y tal, y pues eso es que un diseñador de niveles se ha olvidado de poner ahí el sistema del room system, ¿no? Y entonces pues ahí tenemos el por qué se sofoca el jugador.
Taken two of them is the room system and the transit system, and there are there's quite a few components to them, if you put it that way. So many times the setup can be done completely correct from our side, and it might break for some other reason. It could be, object container streaming or whatever it might be that causes it, or it might be that there's some conflict with the layers, or there's a million things that can go wrong. So I think a lot of people who are outside of kind of level design don't quite realize the complexity of certain things.
No, you already said it was your fault. You can't take it back.
Yeah, but that's because we are noble and humble.
So what I'm doing now is basically I have like the start of a corridor that then expand to this cave system that I want. So
Está comentando de que a la hora de diseñar niveles, que el hecho de que no se confundan capas o capas no entren en conflicto, que en realidad que es un trabajo más complejo de lo que parece y que gente que es externa a lo que es el diseño de niveles, que no entiende la complejidad que supone, ¿no? Y nos están enseñando ahora que lo que están realizando es un pasillo, como un corredor.
From here, does it look like natural? Does it feel that realistic in some sort of way, right? Like would that be something? Is it too close? Like this door over here, is it too close, and so on? Like these are things that we have to take into account as well and try to build.
Está comentando que a la hora de crear un pasillo como el que quiere hacer un corredor, pues tiene que tener en cuenta de pues lo que está haciendo, pues cómo se ve, qué perspectivas ofrece desde el interior o desde la otra estancia, esa zona nueva, ¿no? Si tiene sentido, si cuadra, si está demasiado cerca, si no, que tienen que tomar todas esas consideraciones en cuenta.
Like you see, that's the bigger opening there, and the smaller kind of doorway has a 4x4 meter one, right? There's a lot of things to level design, especially when it comes to like spatial awareness and shapes and forms, right? Like if you would build everything on a fairly large scale, you wouldn't necessarily create an impressive level. It would just make the player feel small, So you need this balance between smaller spaces and larger spaces, right? If everything is big, then it does feel big, you just feel small, right?
Claro, está comentando de que a la hora de crear en niveles y demás, no pueden hacer todo simplemente enorme y gigante, que tiene que haber un equilibrio entre espacios grandes y espacios pequeños para que el jugador no tenga la sensación de que él es muy pequeño, ¿no? Para la perspectiva que tenemos nosotros a la hora de jugar el juego.
Having a bespoke location where you actually like just have like one thing sitting in a connector, and you have like more control over like how the layout and everything in the structure will be, while in the modular and procedural system, you have to keep in mind that like what kind of rooms and how they connect to your spaces. So they have like all these like 12-meter connectors, and then it could just be an alcove that's like placed next to it, or you want to have like just a transition piece that leads into like a bigger room. And sometimes you need to bring the players a bit further out to provide more space for the next rooms, cause like otherwise they might bump into the walls of the hub, for example. This is a case we had a lot in the rest stops actually, where we had to like bring the people further out, and then so the room has enough space to expand and not has any overlapping or collision issues.
Now, I want to add here real quick that we're working in white box here. The purpose of what you're doing is not to make something that looks good. It's to build an experience to lay the foundation, the groundwork for something that then environment artists would come in and they would see these 45-degree cantered rock walls, and then they would sculpt something that was more natural looking and stuff. This is you're trying to build the first impression.
Claro, están comentando de que, pues, volviendo a comentar sobre métricas, espacios, tamaños y demás, que también es importante que, pues, a la hora de tener una experiencia, que es algo que ocurre mucho en las stops, es que la travesía pues no haya colisiones o todo parezca lo más natural posible, y que además recalca Listis Holando de que, bueno, lo que estamos viendo aquí que es un proceso de white box, que es decir, que esas paredes así todas ahí puestas en plan apiladas y tal, que al final lo que llegaría pues es un artista y esculpiría las formas o añadiría algo para darle esa sensación como más natural, más adecuada, ¿no?
Initial section where you just really try things out, you just throw things together, things are overlapping and it looks a bit shite, that's just the way it is. But you just want to get the feeling of what you want to achieve there. And then when you have what you kind of want to achieve at that place, you go in and kind of clean it up into a clean white box, which is like a proper white box where things kind of match up, where right now he's using something we call the template tile sets, which is a tile set, has loads of pieces. It has a pink material and a gray material. And if you see something that is pink, that usually means that there should be another mesh that goes there to cover it. So when you're actually in the room and it's a finished white box, you will only see gray. You won't see anything pink, right? And once we And also part of the white box kind of stage is of course the blockout, but it's also the first pass on the markup, placement of the AI, usables, any transit. So any location should be fully playable, even though it's rough and not polished, but it should be fully playable in white box. And that is a requirement before we actually reach something we call the white box size.
Claro, aquí está comentando una cosa muy importante, ¿no? Que dice que cuando, o sea, cuando ya pasa a la fase Grebos o lo que sea, que no debería haber ninguna textura rosa, que se vea rosa. Entonces es que el Waybox no está terminado, por lo que comenta. Y también comenta que aunque esté en Waybox, cualquier tipo de travesía o gameplay que se realice no debería de tener ningún inconveniente, ningún problema, ¿no? Que ya se realiza aquí, o sea, y además también ya se realiza aquí ese tipo de comprobaciones y que también pues en esta fase se pueden añadir pues usables o cualquier tipo de herramienta que se va a usar en el lugar, etcétera.
Turn out that well, and then like we just like toss feedback back and forth, and then it's like, hey, it's like how it currently looks. It's not doesn't work very well for navigation or like for AI. Maybe we can tweak something here and there. So more minor tweaks, like not major stuff.
Yep.
So at the moment, I've been looking at like basically from the inside here, we would be able to see that gigantic cave that opens in the back. It's like the line of sight, right? And so I started to kind of like have a rough layout. I want to have a room at the end of this and some kind of like, you know, whole like walkway on top of the cave over here. That ends up into some location, some kind of room at the end. But then I realized, hold on, because if we're inside of here, that means that, you know, it's kind of like loading already everything. So I started to grab this big rock here and try to use it as like a big pillar to kind of block the view from the inside, so that, you know, usually it would be like the trick we would use is maybe like a donut type of room where you have a pillar in the middle and you have to go around, and that makes sure that what's behind you is not being shown anymore. But I mean, for this showcase, I think this is fine.
Right.
So I'll do it.
You're dealing with two. Looks like to me, it looks like you're dealing with two major considerations right now. One, you're trying to build a reveal for the player so that when they, you know, they see it, they see a hint, a sense of, oh, there's a cave down there, and then they walk out. As they walk out, you know, you tighten their field of view so that then it can explode into this, you know, grand, like, oh, and have a moment there for the player. But you also have to have performance considerations, and when is this stuff going to stream in? When is this stuff, you know, when is this stuff all going to move into memory and stuff, and you don't want to have to load the entire, you know, cave when they're still so far away.
Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff is kind of.
Están comentando una cosa interesante, ¿no? Que a la hora del diseño de niveles hay dos consideraciones importantes, ¿no? Lo que sería la experiencia de jugador, de dar como una pista, una sugerencia de que ahí puede haber algo. A la hora de ver esa entrada, pues se ve como esa pared de roca al fondo para indicar que hay una cueva. Pero al mismo tiempo también eso sirve como de alguna manera como... O sea, si van a hacer otra habitación o van a hacer una extensión, no, o sea, tratar de taparla con algo o para poder dividir la sala de alguna manera, en el sentido que cuando se utiliza el content en streaming no cargue toda la sala y eso pues sea una ventaja para poder tener mejor rendimiento, ¿no? Pues no puedes hacer una cueva enorme ahí de la hostia y tal y meter de todo y que se vea todo, entonces, porque si no eso afectaría mucho al rendimiento, ¿no?
You know, and create this interesting, you know, you line up there, you peek around the corner, and then you move forward. You know, it's not just straight. Yeah, no one likes to explore just a straight tunnel, right?
Also, for example, like this this big cave I got here, right? This is really just to showcase to the artist, right? It would actually not be something we would put in the game, but you know, it's to get the point, like, oh, I need a big reveal here. Like, to me, it doesn't really matter what that big reveal would be at this stage, but it's just to get it's easy to communicate, like, oh, that's a big thing and I need to see when I come here. It needs to be something huge. And Yeah.
I think they're always happy if you start scaling, take the art and scale it like
Oh, yeah,
how we need it.
Claro, están comentando un poco de que lo que vemos ahí, la estructura esa de cueva gigantesca, enorme, cavidad enorme, que eso no es algo que vaya a ir realmente en el juego, que es algo que ellos solo utilizan los artistas para poder tener esa perspectiva, ese punto de vista, y cuando están haciendo el nivel, de poder decir, hostia, pues hay eso enorme, ¿no? Eso que te llama la atención, eso que te llama la atención para mirar, o hay una vista que puede merecer la pena, ¿no?
And the artist goes in later on and actually like he makes it like look proper and scale properly and everything like that. For me, it's just like to give the space the right feeling for me to work with and like for play testing, and then it's like they can come in and then they make it pretty.
Now, there's a question in chat that's interesting. When does we've seen a lot of concept art for various locations. We were just showing concept art for the various hospitals in ISC yesterday. When does concepting for locations happen? Does it happen after you've completed a white box so that the artists know what general shape and form that you're working with, or does the concept happen before this?
It depends. You can have like mood concepts that usually comes before that describes a mood. For example, let's do like a flagship landing zone. It could be like Lorville, and they put down like dusty plaza, big high walls. You know, it just gives you a sensation of what the impression and the feeling of the location should be. And then usually these mood concepts is something that the level designer takes and it starts to kind of put together streets or whatever it might be that kind of feels like it, right? And when you have like a layout that feels all right, you have the street, you have this whatever side alleyways, whatever it might be, then that can be sent back to concepts and they do an overpaint of that. Basically, they paint over what Antoine is doing here, for example. They would choose like a nice angle of this and they would just take an image and they would start painting it over with their amazing skills and making basically.
Claro, están haciendo la pregunta de si a la hora de realizar un concepto se hace antes o después de lo que sería el whitebox, ¿no? Y eso dice que depende, ¿no? O sea, porque puede ser, por ejemplo, que tengan una plaza en Lorville y que sabemos el estilo, ¿no? Del lugar y bueno, pues se hace una plaza así pues, en este plan de bloques y tal y luego o se hace un concepto y luego pues se traslada esa plaza ahí, o también lo que puede suceder es que pues una vez se haga esa plaza pues se hagan resto de calles y demás como está haciendo Antón ahora mismo aquí, y luego pues esas calles se vuelvan a pasar, o sea, vaya el trabajo de vuelta a los artistas y los artistas como que escojan un ángulo bueno y empiecen a pintar y a hacer y utilizar sus increíbles habilidades, ha dicho, ¿no?
Interesting.
I don't know, my first Quake 3 map was excellent. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, not everyone is a legend like yourself,
So, another question from the chat. Where did you get
Efectivamente,
started with this? Did you start with like
no,
building
digo
Legos?
eco, efectivamente eco.
Was it Legos and then you're like, hey, yeah, I like building rooms and...
De hecho, este tipo de movidas a veces se pueden ver en los elevadores. Si llegan tarde, se puede ver en el suelo que está este tipo de bloques en algunas ubicaciones.
I can start.
Sure.
Because I guess everybody has a different background, right, on that. Yeah, for me, I think it's funny to say, but I think Minecraft helped really to get the sense of space and scale and just like what makes sense, what feels cool to build and so on. But then, yeah, I jumped into like editors to try to build games out of these editors and also you know, other game engine before getting into the industry. Just building games and so on, and I focus on level design, like building worlds and just thinking about the spatial aspect of things is something that I like. So yeah, that's for me.
On my end, when I was young, I played a bit. Always like to play around with level editors like Warcraft 3, for example. But that was just more on the side. But when I was playing games like the Gothic or the Risen series, this is when it actually like started in getting me like interested in. I really want to do this for a living because for level design you actually like you see what you're building in the editor in the game rather than in game design where you do more like theoretical stuff and do a lot of like write-ups and things like that. So it was always more appealing to me to build.
están comentando cómo han llegado a esto de alguna manera, ¿no? El anterior compañero comentaba de que Minecraft que fue algo que llamó la atención también para llegar a hacer ese tipo de cosas. Y el otro compañero que parece que tiene más años, ¿no? Porque habla de Warcraft 3 y también habla de Gothic y de hacer niveles dentro y tal, y que dice que tienes la sensación de que luego pues que has construido algo, ¿no? Lo ves ahí, que esa sensación que es algo que le trae atractivo, lo atrae a él personalmente, ¿no?
Help on developing. Sorry.
Where'd you get your start, Manuel? What was the thing that made you want to do this?
Well, it's just just all the logic of the spatial aspect of it made it very appealing. And when I realized that I could do that, as a job, learning all these rule sets, and that's when I was like, oh yeah, I'm doing it.
El que está hablando ahora está comentando de que le encantó lo que es la lógica de los espacios y que cuando se dio cuenta de que podría vivir de ello, pues ahí fue lo que le atrajo, ¿no? Para dedicarse a esta profesión.
It's just I can get from here. There's like this little section that tells me, hey, storytelling. We're gonna get into the rocky area, and then there's it's not just a straight line, just a small path that goes on the side, goes down a little bit, making it a bit interesting. Then it gets to this room. I left like an area over here where there's a door to kind of like explain that maybe it just expand on this side, and that is maybe the way that you connect back to the cave system. That could just be inside of the big open area of the cave, and then you take like this.
Me está comentándonos un poco, dándonos un paseo por lo que está haciendo con el pasillo, ¿no? Que le ha puesto ahí una escalera un poco para abajo para hacer la estructura un poco más interesante, el acercamiento. Y ahí pues vimos como quería poner como una especie de laboratorio, cocina, algo extraño. Y luego vemos en la puerta que estaba comentando, que está ahí al fondo, que se ve ahora, que es como una posibilidad que, bueno, que podría ser una futura expansión o quizás la forma de conectar esta estructura con la cueva.
Yeah.
To quickly get back to your question, Jared. So after I knew what I want to do, I actually looked around how can you get into the industry or into the job, and in Germany they actually have schools for that. At the time it was just I think 2, so I just applied there, and I took a course in game design, level design, and then once I was done, I looked for jobs in the industry, and I started working for 3D browser game, and did some fantasy types, top-down level design. In between, I also did a bit of a few years of QA, which was also quite interesting to see how all the other departments and how testing and everything works. And
there's no better way to learn game development than working in QA.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite a different point of view.
El que está hablando está comentando de que se apuntó a una escuela de diseño de niveles en Alemania, que en Alemania pues se puede estudiar este tipo de rama. Y cuando terminó, pues se metió en control de calidad, y bueno, pues que está comentando que el departamento de control de calidad, que de alguna manera es el de QA, ¿no? Que de alguna manera si quieres aprender de programación de videojuegos y demás, que es un gran sitio para estar por los puntos de vista que te ofrece y porque puedes ver como todo el proceso, ¿no? El proceso del resto de equipos.
Company, you don't want to release a game that hasn't gone through QA, trust me. I mean, you're going to be for a terrible ride.
Yeah. No,
Just imagine the most buggy game that you ever played in your entire life. That still went through QA. You know, imagine how bad it would be otherwise.
It also gives you a different perspective on testing your own stuff and thinking of situations or ways others might not. And I think it quite helps having these.
Está comentando que el tema de control de calidad, de estar allí, también le sirve para que a la hora de su trabajo lo aplican en el sentido de que tiene otros puntos de vista a la hora de ver si es algo funcional o de poder probar tu propio trabajo, ¿no?
What are you doing, Antoine?
I don't know.
About this.
Yeah. So yeah, working on grid is very important, guys. As you can see, because this defines the metric of the game. Yeah, no, but you see all my walls are on grid, Andreas.
save this level afterwards. Maybe do a proper review.
Next year's review, he's gonna bring up this episode.
You guys had it lucky getting into industry, though. I mean, with your schools and stuff, that's pretty fancy.
How did you end up, Andreas?
I mean, my teenage years were before even the internet, right? So, I mean, we didn't even have, we had computers. I mean, I started absolutely with, I remember when I was like 7, I used to love drawing top-down road networks. No idea why. Having like many A4 pages all lining up and just creating huge cities top-down. GTA 1 and 2 style, right? But it was like, this is back in probably like 91, 89, 88, that period. And then of course it came into Legos, which is the only toy I had when I grew up. I had nothing but Legos.
Claro, se está comentando otro punto de vista que todavía tiene más años que los demás del equipo, ¿no? Y dice que vosotros tuvisteis bastante suerte con todas vuestras escuelas elegantes, ¿no? De programación y tal, que dice que cuando él empezó que no había ni siquiera internet y que bueno, que sí tenía computadoras y tal, pero que se dedicaba a hacer como dibujar ciudades o demás y que también que su juego de infancia pues él jugó bastante con Legos.
Content, right? So.
Do you ever still start with a piece of paper and a pencil when you're doing these?
Yeah, I do sometimes. I'm not sure about these youngsters, but
yeah, I actually do that as well. I try to think about like how I want to build a place and some layouts, and I just do some rough sketches on paper, and then I try to convert them.
Estamos preguntando al compañero este que juega con Legos de pequeño que si sigue haciendo algunos bocetos a papel. Y dice que sí, que lo hace a veces y que bueno, el otro compañero también contesta que lo mismo, que también hace algunos bocetos en papel de vez en cuando.
He's done right away, like in 3D, because I'm thinking about space. Sometimes I cannot convert it to paper. It's a bit weird one, but it depends. Sometimes like I need a sketch before to know what I will be building. But yeah, it really depends on what the subject is, because a concept art can inspire you sometimes more than your own drawing. So
yeah, that's true.
That box is 3.183 meters high. You're still. This is terrible. What kind of cover height is that?
Let's talk about how important metrics are.
Terrible.
Let's talk about metrics.
So metrics is key, right? What Antoine is showing here is it's not a great methodology of level design when you work off the grid, right? Like
So what I'm trying to achieve here is to repro this type of thing, right? This type of kitchen, but within here. So in the first place, if I would actually build like a whole kitchen on grid, it would take me forever because I'm not a 3D artist. So I'd rather have like these quick things in there, and the only metric that I would care about at this point is the 1.25, which is the cover height for AI and so on. And so at this stage, if maybe.
Está comentando de que bueno, a la hora de estar dibujando eso, o sea, creando eso, ¿no? Primero dice que, o sea, él prefiere no utilizar papel porque, bueno, a veces en el 3D, las sensaciones que trae el 3D, que él a veces no es capaz de plasmar esa sensación de espacios en papel. Y que también beber de un arte de concepto que muchas veces es mucho mejor que de algo que has hecho tú o hacerlo por tu cuenta, ¿no? Y que todos han coincidido en eso, en el tema del concept art. Y también de que, bueno, de que están haciendo lo que sería tratando de replicar esa cocina que vemos ahí y que evidentemente, pues, si se te tratase de hacer la cocina tal y como está, que le llevaría para siempre, que él no es un artista 3D, ¿no? Que eso sería encargado a otra persona. Y finalmente comentando de la altura de la mesa, que tiene que ser 1.28 metros, porque es la altura necesaria para que se pueda aplicar como cobertura por el personaje.
Up the levels. Every place that you have covers and stuff, this is someone who's manually going in and placing an entity that's connects to the nav mesh and kind of generates the cover for that section, right? So
these are the things that tell the AI that there's a place.
Exactly. I mean,
precisely. Yeah. I was going to show, like, you see how now it turns red if it's under 125, and that's why, like, I have to follow that over here. Wait, actually I can turn all of them. There you go. And that one is good enough. That is a room where it even shows me like, okay, that's like complete
full cover.
Cover. This one is like just a cover, and this one is not accepted or half cover. Yeah.
Yeah, the second metrics that is quite important in this stage is the navigation, right? So one AI needs 1.25 meters to navigate through a path without major issues. So if you make a path that is 1.25 wide, then one AI can cross it, right? Ideally, we try to make all our paths 2.5, which is double that, which means two AI can cross each other without, the very polite, excuse me, sir. Yep, I'm sorry. That's you first, that kind of thing. It can be tricky sometimes, especially when you start putting props like boxes, for example, in front of doorways like we have here, that we have to go in and kind of check that the space is sufficient for AI to actually be able to navigate. So that is a second metric that is quite important. Cover and navigation.
Ahí le va la pregunta.
And this is a few of the things that Anton was placing.
Le estoy preguntando si va a haber diferencias entre lo que sería la cobertura para un... A ver si me la contesta, ¿no? Para un varón o una hembra. Bueno, para una mujer o un hombre. Porque tienen diferentes métricas. Entonces, ¿qué pasa ahí a la hora de apuntar el arma? O sea...
Or to go on top of a ledge. Also something that we're doing to kind of control, make sure that, if you're not able to, if you shouldn't jump there, then we're making sure you cannot, but we only allow it in some areas.
Yeah, I think we can even determine if it's should be usable from both sides, right? Or only from one side. So in theory, you could now stand on a lower platform and then jump, and then here the character would pull up and pull himself over the ledge, or the other way around. You could jump down, but you could also restrict it to be only one way.
So for example, here you see a good example of level design, right? Where let's imagine this is a combat area. You have this little section where Antoine was just in, right? You have boxes that is kind of facing towards the door. You have people who can be on the other
Claro,
side.
es
You
que
have
cosa
this
una
little ledge
movida.
on the left side if you go over that back into the corner over there. This is almost like a little survey platform that leads down to the door, where you can overlook the situation. You can have one person kind of standing here providing cover while the other person goes in and clears the room, for example. There's a lot of little things like this that when we build stuff, we kind of do it on the fly almost because we've done it so many times. But it's all about creating a different elevation, which is always very interesting, without creating needlessly complicated paths. And on top of that, combining that with nice fire angles and cover positions. So no matter if you're an attacker or defender, you would ideally have some advantage in certain part of the map, right? Now you're going a bit crazy.
Parece tomar consideraciones de que no importa si es atacante o defensor, de que siempre tengas alguna ventaja en ciertos lugares del mapa, ¿no? Que eso vaya variando, que haya mejores coberturas para atacarse o para defenderte, ¿no? Por el mapa, que esas consideraciones también las tienen en cuenta.
But then, people understand what it is now.
I mean, with this, we can just slap on a material, right, and ship it.
Yeah.
So it's
I mean, I
new patch tomorrow.
I know an industrial kitchen was your visual reference, but I gotta think that with this situation here, this is more likely a drug lab or something, being out here at the end of a.
It could be a geology lab, and they need heaters and burners as well to study samples of materials and whatever it might be.
Cook the rocks.
Cook the rock, yes.
I don't know anything about geology.
It's fascinating.
I think that's PAI.
Another thing worth mentioning as well, like what Antoine is building there, this entire section from here onwards, that would be a separate module, right? That would be built as an independent thing, and it can be attached to any of the connectors of the hub. So
exactly, this is what Antoine showed in the beginning when he pulled out the hub, and you saw the 4 different modules poking out. That this would be one of those sections, and then you could in theory move it on each of the connectors, on the north, west, or east side, for example, and ideally with the modular content, stuff should work in any way it's connected and attached.
Where did your NPC run to? Oh, there he is.
Oh, no, nice.
Yeah, I think they went all inside and use that cover inside.
Yeah, he lured you in.
Go.
Just want to point out there's a small gap between one of the boxes on the higher platform.
Yeah,
So
I saw that.
that's what happened when you do sloppy level design.
Yeah, you can also do that, right? And yeah, and then do something with them. Maybe cook them in your drug lab. I don't know.
Maybe.
Oh,
I mean, it's the future, you know.
freeze.
Maybe expand our cuisine to include other species.
That's just a small freeze from my side. There we go, we're back. But yeah, so cover works. The AI is moving around and so on, so it's quite nice. And they are taking cover, so that works well. Maybe I need to check how far the navigation is going. So looks fine. It's not going here, so maybe the AI is not using these ones. And try to rectify that.
Now, you didn't do the navigation markup. How is that just suddenly there?
Because we already had one with this one, so I kind of like cheated here. But I will actually do one so you guys can see.
Yeah, navigation is it's a volume that we put down, and in this case it's just a giant volume, and then the system generates everything inside the volumes, checks all the surfaces and generates a valid navmesh.
Nice.
Ideally, of course, each room would have a more detailed version, like what he's doing now.
Está comentando que la navegación es como un volumen que ponen dentro y a partir de ahí, del sistema que tienen, pues ya hace todo, ¿no? El sistema de IA y demás, ya se mueve por ahí. Y que espera que tengamos un sistema más detallado en el futuro.
On top of the kitchen. I kind of want a ladder to get up there.
You want a ladder on top here?
Yeah.
I'm sure Antoine can build a little balcony on top there with the ladder up, can't you, Antoine, for Jared?
Yeah, I can do that.
There was a question in the chat earlier. When you were putting the bookshelves in there, you actually like built the bookshelf. You know, wall, top, shelf. For as common as bookshelves are, is there not a just a white box bookshelf that you can just go plop there?
That kind of goes into the thing where for us, we could just put a box. It's kind of up to us to communicate that to the artist as like, hey, that would be a storage area. Usually what I would do as well is to have...
Pero está preguntándolo de lo de los estantes y tal que están poniendo ahí, que si los estantes es algo que pongan o eso no sería más trabajo de los artistas y tal, que depende de cada uno de las personas, que depende de cada uno lo que quieras comunicar al artista o el nivel que quiera comunicar al artista. En este caso, pues él quiere comunicar que vayan unos estantes, ¿no? O sea, que podrían poner una caja sin más también, ¿no?
Put that in, or even just the artist, they would swap out. But I thought that for the visual aspect of it, we could just build a shelf.
Right.
I mean, even with this, right? With we use something called the designer solid tool, right?
Yeah.
We're quite proficient with it. So sometimes it takes longer for us to open a library, find a bookshelf,
right,
and put it into level. Then it's just like drag a box, drag 3 more boxes, extrude, you know, it's job's done, right? I mean, it's it's just the way it is.
No, I hear you. I get you. Yeah, so that you know, it looks like a bookshelf at this moment because it's just a couple things, but it could be a cupboard, it could be it could be a cabinet, it can be a storage locker.
Basically when we put down stuff in application, it does like what Antoine did next to the stairs there. He put something that looks like a pipe. In the end, that might turn into support column. You know, the only thing we have indicated is that we want to have something there that is a full height of this size. Most likely it will be some kind of full cover. You know. And then when the artists put it together, they can really use their creativity to put whatever they would like to have in it, right? If there is something specific that we really want to have this type of art piece there, let's say we really do want to have a pipe there because we want to, when there's combat that someone shoots it and it bursts and gas comes out, you know, then we will maybe put a color on it and say like this, and this has to be a pipe, right? And then that's a pipe.
Parece, por ejemplo, el caso de que quieran hacer como una tubería o algo que sea parte del combate, de cuando entren ahí disparando, pues arda, pues la señalarán con un color y la demarcarán de alguna manera para decir, bueno, pues esto es una tubería que cuando haya una batalla pues puede ser peligroso, puede explotar o tal.
In reality, this doesn't make sense, right? It's just for the sake of the show, right? I just want to precise it so that
You have an
people
entire
don't think I'm
underground
crazy.
facility with a kitchen outside in the cave. Don't talk to me about what makes sense.
Yeah. Precisely.
Vertical traversal is great.
Oh yeah, but we can even expand more, right? We could have like some venting system that goes back in here or something.
I mean, it could be that, for example, that door, let's say this door that you have leading on the other way, maybe that's the barracks, and this is actually their kind of common area. They just have a very nice cave view, with lots of cave bugs flying into their soups.
I get you. Like this is like
Están hablando un poco en general de lo que podría ser el propósito de esta ubicación, ¿no? Que podría ser simplemente los cuarteles, ¿no? De donde estén aquí viviendo y tal, y que eso sea una cocina realmente.
Modular pieces to kind of put together and put into the cave, right?
I do like the adherence of the safety railings. It's like this underground facility that's got this precarious kitchen outside on this random platform. They're like, nope, safety first.
Yeah. Important.
All the rails.
As we said, it doesn't have to be like a food kitchen, right? There's many types of kitchens, or not even kitchens, places with storage and some kind of heat element, right?
Yeah, a lab of some kind.
There you go.
See? Oh, Jared created an interesting vertical combat space. Well done, Jared.
Hey,
Nice.
I've played a video game or two.
I have a free slot on my level design team if you want to join, just saying.
Never mind, I was going to say something that I keep a number of options open. Who knows when my
That's
last
good.
day ends up here.
Never put all your hand grenades in the same basket, right?
I can start on a bit on markup as well, where basically we add like room system so that you can breathe without your helmet.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I mean, show a bit markup so people know the less exciting creative bits of level design, right?
Although after the 404, I don't think John Crew will ever let me on the vehicle team.
They're overrated anyway.
Claro, lo que están poniendo ahora, están comentando que van a poner el room system, el famoso room system, para que esa zona a partir de ahí sea respirable y que así veamos cómo funciona.
That comes from the hub, and I think Antoine can maybe turn on a debug where you can actually see then how it connects. So for now, he's placing an area box down here. Can also be a shape, whatever we need. It depends on like how complex the room is, and then we define it by the size up until the walls. And then we just connect an entity to it and tell it like, you are a room system, you have like oxygen. And we try to separate.
Claro, lo que están diciendo es que este tipo de volumen puede servir para cualquier cosa, para darle una forma, para lo que sea, y en este caso pues también le pueden dar la propiedad de eres un room system y tienes oxígeno, ¿no?
Up until the door, and then in the door would sit another connector to the next room system for the platform, and we would put in a connector in between, so actually the air can like circulate between, like we can define it by the size of the room, or doors, for example, come automatically.
Tiene la posibilidad también de poner conectores entre los diferentes sistemas de habitación para que el aire fluya entre ellos, ¿no?
Actually like circulate and flow. Should we ever get like according gameplay related things?
Decompression.
Yes.
I mean, it is important, as someone else said as well, because the size of the volume actually determines the amount of air, and it is a correct amount of air, right? That's why the markup is important. Like, we make a small room, it will only have, if you make a 4 cubic meter size room, that room will only have 4 cubic meter of air. So that is what you have, you know. So that's why all this is important. But also, if you have a very large room on one side, a very large room on the other side, and a very tiny door in between them, the portal in between the two will determine the rate of gas transfer between the two rooms as well. So
están comentando una cosa bastante interesante de que el aire que hay en una zona depende del volumen que tenga ese sistema de habitaciones, ¿no? El room system. Entonces, en caso de que haya una habitación muy grande a un lado y otra habitación muy grande al otro lado y una pequeña en el medio, las dimensiones de ese sistema, ese room system, determinará la cantidad de aire que circula entre las dos cámaras grandes.
In the Area 18 hubs, for example, then there was a broken connector, and all the air leaked out into the void, and left the room without air. So yeah, that's things that can happen sometimes. Connector
Uh-huh.
just gets offset a bit, or like something was accidentally deleted, or something just broke, and then we need to go in and check like is the markup, like the box, still right? Does it have the right size? Does the connector still sit? Yep, and we have like lots of debug options to debug that and see that.
Yeah, in this case, for example, the room here has a room, and the one he was just in also has a room. The other bit that is on the outside between the two is technically almost an exterior, right? So it wouldn't really have a markup unless it's inside a cave. We usually do a bit, for example, a cave system does have a room system markup, but it has a portal at the entrance that transfer the gases in and out, right? So it was similar here. So ideally, because they don't have airlocks in this place, one would assume that there's a somewhat breathable atmosphere in this cave.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'll just put one over there, and then leave it to the planet space over here. So that way you come in.
Set up a transit elevator. No.
But yeah, sure. No, that's takes a bit more time.
I know.
But yeah, so we've got a a marked up area with some AI, some cover, added to a UGF.
Yep. Very rough. Needs a couple of more iterations, but good job, Anton.
Yeah, there's some stuff that
Yeah.
are not perfect, but
Well, it's important to remember that in these hour-long game dev SCLs, I don't think there's a single aspect of Star Citizen that can be made in an hour. So, everybody that comes
Está
on.
comentando algo Discord que también hay que tener en cuenta. Y hay que tener en cuenta a la hora de desarrollar Star Citizen que no hay ningún tipo de cosas de las que hagan de desarrollo de juego que se pueda hacer en una hora, ¿no? Que lo que estamos viendo aquí al final es algo hecho ahí rápido, a la apurada, para poder mostrarnos el trabajo que están haciendo.
Can't crawl into that hole right there? You can't go prone?
I'm sure you can go prone and just like squeeze yourself in like a worm, but
yeah.
you can plug that under between the stairs on the left side.
Show me what happens. Go prone. There you go.
Maybe.
There you go.
Need to plug that hole, man. You just went to secret level B here.
Estaban diciéndole de que fuera agachado, si se podría agachar entre las dos escaleras, ahí fue, ¿no? Y lo hizo.
But yeah, as Indros mentioned, like, we can see now, if I take the hub again, that would be maybe a small section, and we basically just created one of these again, kind of like what we have here, right? This would be like an entire section that we can swap out. So I could just take that whole section and put it somewhere else where there is like the same connector size.
You could even shuffle them around and like have it like ordered in a
Nos estaba diciendo otra demostración de ese tipo de modularidad, que podría sacar esa sección y ponerla en otro lado, la sección donde están los servidores y demás.
Revisit and really quite expand them and turn them into their proper thing. They're a bit lackluster at the moment. They have a few years on them. They need a bit of polish, a bit of makeup, and they need some parts actually need to be completely redone. So there will be one of the components that we'll be looking at in the future at some point will be a complete rework of the UGFs and really put them out with like a proper amount of content, not just a hub and 3 rooms, right? Because that's underwhelming.
The UGFs did get a new edition in 3.13 though. Nobody's discovered them yet.
Dum dum dum.
So, I mean, the patch just went out yesterday, so. But there is something new to discover in, I think it's the medium ones. Might be the large ones. There's about 9 of them. There's about 9 of them that have something fun to discover. And Andreas is like, I have no idea what he's talking about.
I have no idea what he's talking about, to be honest.
It's
I'm just trying to not show my ignorance.
They're in there. No, I'm not saying what they are because I want people
like
to discover.
Small collectibles of yourself. A fluffy Jared laying around.
It's not actually far from the truth.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
All right. So yeah. So we've got just a couple minutes. What do we? How do you want to wrap this up? Is there something you can do in like 3 minutes? What are you doing now? You going crazy with the doors?
Yeah, I thought about expanding this into connector about the same size over there we have over there. And then I realized that basically we have the shaft over here. So, in
It's a
this
big
case,
shaft.
then yeah, the elevator shaft, which is a problem. So in this case, for example, if I make it too big, we would have like bounding boxes checks that would ensure that nothing would collide on one into the other, stuff like that. So maybe
Ha comentado Descolando algo sobre cuevas y lugares que descubrieron entre las cuevas que hay cosas que ver o cosas interesantes. Y dice, no estoy diciendo que están ahí, pero puede haber cosas interesantes. Y bueno, pues...
a bit further and then allows for like more generation options, because otherwise the procedural tool would tell you like, hey, there's like, it would collide, so it wouldn't generate, and then it tries for like different combinations or different slots where it could connect this new piece to. And yeah,
I mean, one of the kind of
Está hablando de que un poco la sección que tienen ahí de elevador que puede suponer un problema a la hora de expandir y tal, y como que está sorteando eso, haciendo escaleras. Y está simplemente rellenando tiempo diciendo de, bueno, quedan 2 minutos y que hagan algo durante estos 2 minutos que quieren hacer, ¿no?
more, it's a bit more structured than that, so you would never get that. But at some points in the game, you might use corridors to what this guy's been saying, like to kind of push some content a bit further away, because otherwise we will run into bounding box issues with all the items that lies around it, and things will just never be able to generate, right? So, yeah.
exactly. But
with
also
the
when,
procedural
go
tool as well, we have the ability to procedurally construct corridors, so the game, when generating, can build corridors by itself. Sorry, Manuel, please go on.
No, it's fine. What I wanted to say is like not necessarily dependent on the procedural stuff, but what Antoine was like building before, like here's like we sometimes already plan for like future spaces where things could connect on later on, but like for the initial release, it would just like be cut off, but there would be a door, a locked door, and you couldn't go any further. But we already tried to like plan ahead a bit, and it's like how we can expand the space in the future, and like, or we already know like from the level design documents like what we want to build in.
Están comentando de que aunque vemos así estructuras y tal, que a veces hay puertas en las que no se puede hacer travesía y demás, y bueno, pues lo tienen ahí puesto porque pues previniendo para que en futuro pues haya una posible expansión.
It would go and like place a facade there and something like that. So we already planned for the space and and leave that for the future.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you, Antoine. I think we have a better sense now of what level design does, how they
Please
work.
move that box down.
got frozen.
Oh,
Editor.
we can't end the show until I give Andreas this. He's got to.
Yeah, perfect.
Spell that intersect. You're not violating the laws of reality.
The law.
That's something.
All right, you can go ahead and stop the share. All right. Thank you, everybody. This has been Star Citizen Live Game Dev FPS Level Design. I've been your host, Jared Huckabee, and joining us on the show this week has been Antoine. I'm not going to try to say your last name. You want to do it?
Fobi.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't try. Antoine, Andreas, and Manuel. Thank you for joining us. We'll be next week. We have an ISC and another episode of Calling All Devs. So I'll see you live again in about 2 weeks.
La siguiente semana tenemos un Inside Star Citizen y otro episodio de Calling All Devs.
It's been a long week. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You gonna fix that box now or what? I'm not.
Jesus
letting you go.
Christ, put it off the grid. Holy fucking crap.
Sorry.